Hello friends, welcome back. Today's picture panel is going to be the Royal York Hotel. So I guess I always knew that this was a big and impressive hotel downtown. I guess what I didn't know was just how big and impressive it really was. It opened just 3 months before the stock market crashed in 1929, which means that between when this building was finished and when they started renovations on the other Wesley block, that all of these photos could have only been taken sort of in between 1929 and 1931. And based on how stained this photo is and how not ready for renovation the Wesley Block one looks, I don't think all of the photos were actually taken in sort of 1 year. So this is the largest of Canada's railway hotels. Basically, all of the big famous hotels in Canada are former railway hotels. So Banff, Lake Louise, the Chateau Laurier, the Chateau Frontenac, even the Cornwallis Inn was a former railway hotel. At 124 meters tall when it was finished, it wasn't just the tallest railway hotel, it wasn't even just the tallest building in Toronto. It was actually the tallest building in the British Empire when it was finished. And it continued to be the biggest hotel in the British Empire or Commonwealth basically into the 1970s. It was designed by Canadian architecture firm. It was designed by a Canadian firm to show off all of the new building materials and technologies that had been developed in Canada around that time. So it was a 28-story tall steel structure that was clad with limestone after the fact. It included 20,000 feet of linoleum flooring, very posh, and was the first building in Canada to have passenger elevators. The website makes it sound like it's this quaint, old-timey thing to come all the way to Toronto just to ride an elevator. It was also built to show off a lot of new communications technology that was all being developed around that time. It's clear they didn't really know where the future was going, but they tried to include everything. So every room had its own radio in it, which could tune into custom radio stations that just broadcast to the hotel. They even had their own call sign, CPRY. Each room also had a telephone, but automatic switching wasn't available then. So this meant that there was a huge 66-foot-long patch table that had tens of people running cables all over this room to try to connect all 1,000 rooms together. There was also a pneumatic mail system with a dedicated set of runners that could deliver mail between a train arriving at Union Station and then shooting it through a pneumatic pipe to the hotel, and then a set of runners could get it up to your room within minutes. This was also plumbed into City Hall and the Toronto Star so that newspapers could arrive literally hot off the presses. As somebody who grew up with email and unlimited text messaging and nationwide calling basically being ubiquitous, it blows my mind that less than 100 years ago, the expense of having, a lobby boy waiting on every floor to take your mail and run it down to a room full of pneumatic tubes, which could high-speed shoot it to the train station where it could then be sorted and loaded onto a train as it was leaving and get into Chicago within 22 hours, or that you should have an entire 66-foot-long patch panel and people running all over the place with cables to hardwire you into another phone just so that you could make a phone call on the other side of town was considered a worthwhile expense. I guess we really take for granted our modern communications technology and how actually incredible it is that it all basically works at all. The kitchen is either the largest or among the largest in Canada even today. At over 41,000 square feet, it's basically a rounding error away from being an acre of kitchen, which means that they can produce over 15,000 buttered French rolls every day. Along with the giant kitchen, the hotel basically had everything it needed to be self-sufficient. It had its own hospital with 15 beds, a doctor and nursing staff. It had its own library, which is now a bar. It also had its own golf course and country club, which is quite a bit for a hotel today. It also had a tunnel that connected it to Union Station, and was sort of the first part of the modern path system that connects many of the buildings underground. It also has a lot of, I guess, more typical big opulent hotel amenities at the time. It has 6 ballrooms as well as a giant ballroom on the 18th floor, huge meeting rooms on the 19th floor, a nightclub, which is more this sort of jazz bar thing. I think I'd actually go to a nightclub more if they were more this speed. It has small, pretty typical rooms you can get for like $80 if you watch Hotwire enough. And it also has a giant entire 3-floor suite that it uses when the Queen comes to visit. It's actually pretty much every royal's preferred place of residence. And specifically for the Queen, they even have a separate set of furniture that they install just for her. This doesn't just mean her own bed and sofas and dining room table and things. It means that they even have a separate toilet that they plumb in and then remove whenever she visits. When the Queen isn't in town, you can actually rent these over-the-top suites yourself if you're rich enough, and they come with quite a few perks, like a private airplane tour and a personal stylist to take you to the Eaton Center and give you $1,000 worth of free jewelry. Overall, it's still just a giant luxury hotel. I've seen on some sort of urban exploring websites that some of the top floors can be accessed depending on how much you like fire escape routes and big, empty, dusty rooms. The top few floors aren't actually used for anything. People still have big corporate meetings and weddings and things like that here. And without being able to go inside and sort of explore some of these various different ballrooms and talk about how they're different or how you actually get to the 28th floor, I don't think there's really much else I can do with this video. So I'm going to leave it at that, but with a commitment that I'll revisit this in the future. Anyway, have a beautiful day.